This is the Horse Radio Network. This is episode 362 of Horse Tip Daily, a different horse tip, a different equine topic, a different equestrian expert every day. Horse Tip Daily brings the world of equine knowledge to you one day at a time. Today's tip is sponsored by Equestrian Collections. You can visit them for all of your holiday shopping needs at equestriancollections.com. Enjoy today's tip. Howdy, everybody. I'm Glenn the Geek from Lexington, Kentucky, and welcome back to Horse Tip Daily. Well, we have another new, for the third day in a row, another new expert with us today. His name is Rafael Valle, and he is an amazing horseman with a very famous Tennessee walking horse named Ivory Pal. He's a self-taught horseman, and Rafael will share with us what he's learned along the way. We've had him on a couple of the other shows, and he is absolutely fascinating. I asked him to come on here and do tips for us because he just is an amazing horseman, and I think you will enjoy what you hear from Rafael. We're going to be back with Rafael shortly, right after this word from Equestrian Collections. It's not too late. What's the perfect holiday gift? It's a gift certificate from EquestrianCollections.com. Let that horse lover in your life buy whatever their little heart desires. We know sometimes it's difficult to buy for horse people, especially this horse husband knows that. You just never seem to get the right thing. Well, you can solve that problem by getting a gift certificate from EquestrianCollections.com. It's not too late. You have until the 24th to hop in there and buy that gift certificate and have it printed out and under the tree for the 25th. So stop on over to EquestrianCollections.com for the perfect gift that keeps on giving. A gift certificate from EquestrianCollections.com. Well, hi, Rafael, and welcome to Horse Tip Daily. This is your first day on as a new expert on our tip show here at the Horse Radio Network, and we appreciate you joining us.
Well, thank you, Glenn. Glad to be on the show. We appreciate and are honored by the invitation.
Well, you know, you've been on a couple of our other shows now, and now it's just you and I. We don't have any of the wild women co-hosts getting in the way here. So, and you you were a big hit on Stable Scoop and on the Horses in the Morning. You gave us a call one morning, and it was so nice to have you join us there. And I asked you to come do tips because you kind of have a unique story, and you know you've gained a lot of respect in your community. So let's talk a little bit about you, kind of in Reader's Digest version. What's your story with horses?
Well, my horses, I think I was probably born with that gene. That I just loved them from as a kid. As a matter of fact, one of my very early childhood memories was when my parents would travel on business trip, they would take me, and there was a hotel in one of the cities that had a white mechanical horse. I remember being about probably 3 or 4 years old and asking my mom to put me on that horse until she pretty much ran out of dimes back then. It may have been even nickels. So, yeah, and then the other thing was...
Wait, isn't it funny how nothing changes, Rafael? We're still running out of dimes because of our horses.
Absolutely, yeah. No doubt about that. Yeah, we work for the horses, but it's all good because they, you know, what we spend on them monetarily, you can't replace what they gave us back in love and just enriching our lives. But so that's kind of how I remember being in love with horses. But I never owned any horses until basically we bought Ivory Pal, but it's been 9 years ago. I, like most people, I would go off and venture and rent some trail horses and so forth. But my biggest experience with horses was in the summers. I would go down to Nicaragua, and that's where my family's from, in Central America. And my uncles had horses on their farms, and it was a working dairy cow. And then we would just ride, and I loved it. And that was what I used to look for every summer, get on the plane, head down to Nicaragua. And
out of curiosity, on your uncle's farms down there, what did they ride? What breed did they have?
They were primarily Andalusians. That was the main breed there, and I loved their mind, and they were flashy and so forth. But yeah, we rode the stallions and so forth. They were incorporated into the working the cows and so forth, and you would just grab them out from the pastures where they ran wild with their bands and stuff forth. Just grab them and put them, go ride and bring in the cows for the milking or check out the rice pasture. So that was great, and I was able to do that from the time I was pretty much 9 years old until I was 15. Things changed down there politically and everything, and I was never able to go back again as an adult. So until basically 15, until I was kind of aging myself here, until I was 6, I would just, whenever I could, just rent some horses and from these little, dude places or so forth.
Now you went from basically, just having catch rides until you got Ivory Pal. Then until you bought Ivory Pal.
That's correct. Yeah, it's been. It was exactly it was 2001, April 2001. So yeah, that's a little over 9 years ago.
Now, so refresh the, because that I didn't know that part. So that's I'm finding this fascinating. And then you went in a matter of a few short years after buying Ivory Pal to him being a champion, and you having to learn to be a champion in the horse world, which doesn't usually happen in that short a period of time.
Right, yeah, he kind of took me along the ride. He said all I was looking for was a good trail horse just to enjoy riding with my wife, just pleasure riding. Had no interest in ever showing or anything. But, one thing led to the other, and one day we found ourselves in the show ring. Don't ask me how it happened, but it happened, and then one thing led to the other, and like I said, it's basically a testament to Ivory Pal's intelligence and versatility and forgiveness, because believe it or not, he was actually once considered a show reject, and that was kind of what drove us to train and work hard and to go to the show ring to prove to prove that it can be done, naturally and with respect for the animal and the horse and building a partnership, rather than seeing the horse as a means to an end, just with blue ribbons and just get on it and ride in like it's a mechanical thing or like a motorcycle. So yeah, it was things happened quickly. I don't know how it happened. I guess it was just destiny. But I've just basically had to learn as I went. But before we bought Pal, we knew we wanted horses, and I pretty much subscribed to every single horse magazine out there. And had all the videos that were out there, all of the books, had libraries and so forth, and that helped. But there's nothing you can read all about it, but until you actually do something, it's totally different. But it helped, the fact that we kind of try to give ourselves a degree in horsemanship. But it was not actually until working with the horses, in particular Ivory Pal, that things kind of evolved into where we are now.
And just tell everybody about Ivory Pal a little bit, for those that missed our previous shows.
Yeah, Ivory Pal, he's a Golden Palomino Tennessee walking horse stallion. He's pretty much a versatile horse with just an exceptional temperament and such a strong will to please and learn. And that's what's made it easy for me, because he has been forgiven. And I like to make sure people understand that I've made mistakes along the way, because, like I said, I got into this pretty much with limited knowledge of understanding the whole horse, or even how to ride. I mean, basically, I think, like most of us, we were taught, you pull on the reins to stop and you kick on it to go. Simple as that. But it's a lot more than that. And just learning from him has been a great journey. And then we've gotten 4 other horses through the last 9 years. But basically, Ivory Pal still remains my primary horse. I still trail ride and try to do as much as possible with him. And most important is to just try to let him be a horse.
I want one more question, and we'll get you your tip. How cool was it for you? Because you just said, I used to get every magazine there was. Ivory Pal eventually, I think through about probably around 2008, was on the cover of a bunch of different magazines. So how cool was it for you to see your horse on the cover of one of those magazines you used to read 7 years before that?
You know what? It is so humbling, and to this very moment while we talk about it, it still brings tears to my eyes, because you're absolutely right. Here I went from getting all these magazines, or subscribing to them, to all of a sudden seeing him every pound on the cover of Equus on Equine Wellness, in the centerfold of Horse Illustrated, and so forth. So you're absolutely right. It was a very humbling and a very rewarding experience, and we were so proud to have him on those magazines. So yeah, I still remember those very moments when I found out he was on the covers, with very fond and very humbling memories.
It's interesting too, because those of us that have gotten magazines for years and years and years, we remember covers. You remember the covers, and just like Time and all of those, you tend to remember covers. And Ivory Pals is very memorable because it was really a close up of him coming at you out of the magazine, and if I remember right, he was by himself. And it was a really cool picture of him.
Well, thank you. Yeah, Bob Langridge. Yeah, that was correct. It was I believe it was the March 2008 cover, and that picture was taken by Bob Langridge. And what's amazing is I remember obviously the photo session, and little did we know at that time that some of those images that Bob so beautifully captured would end up where they have ended. We also had Terry Prill has also worked with Ivory Pal. She's gotten in a couple of covers of magazines and so forth. But yeah, they've done a beautiful job in capturing Ivory Pal and his natural running ability. Just being a horse, just running out there in the pastures, and he loves it. He kind of seems to look at the camera or something. So every time we have a photo shoot, because it's become an annual passage now, where Bob Langers comes to our farm to take pictures of him, he kind of Ivory Pal remembers that he just does his thing, and Bob Langer just smiles. He goes, "I could tell this horse has done this before." So it's kind of funny. And then you never know where the pictures end up. I think Bob emailed me a couple of weeks ago, said he was in Ivory Pal was in the couple of the Brown Trout calendars 2011.
Oh, is that right?
In the Palomino calendars, and also in the I think it's the Daily Journal. I haven't seen them yet, but I have to run over to Tractor Supply or something to get them. I think I've seen them on the website, but I haven't seen the actual, hard copy of them.
Well, we'll put a link to Ivory Pal's website, of course, on our website, and Ivory Pal's website is ivoryknollranch.com. And he's just a stunning Palomino. I mean, he's got because he's a stallion, he looks kind of studdish, and because of his colors and his pretty much white mane and tail, it just he just stands out. He's just he's a gorgeous horse, and I think that's obviously part of his attraction is his personality, and the other part is he's just stunning.
Well, thank you very much. That's very kind of you to say that, Glenn. Thank you. And for us, it's kind of he's just our boy. I see him every day in the pasture and work with him. So, but now I remember the first time I ever saw him. When we were walking down that barn and we saw him, I remember my wife and I's breath was also we were taken away and blown away by his charisma and his beauty. So I could understand why every people that don't see him every day or are as fortunate as I am to have him in our pastures every day, I could understand the impact. But we always are appreciative and humbled by everybody's kind words and comments about Ivory Pal. So thank you.
No problem. No problem. I think for this first episode that I have you with, I almost want to throw you a curveball and say, let's save what you wanted to talk about, and maybe I wanted to ask you a little bit, because I didn't know your whole story. We've talked several times, but I didn't know the whole story. So maybe, as the tip for this first one, let's go back. You bought Ivory Pal, and really you were a very novice rider. How did you go?
Absolutely.
Yeah, how did you go? You were an amateur. How did you go from that point to a few short years later being, Ivory Pal being a champion in the ring? Did you take lessons with him the whole time? I mean, were you together the whole time, or were you taking lessons separately, or did you do this yourself?
Yeah, we did it ourselves. It was kind of, I guess, my background in having played sports all my life and having been in the Army for 14 years. Conditioning was very part of my life as a person. So I kind of applied it to the same principle to the horse, because a lot of people think, well, here's a 1,000-pound animal, he's strong and everything, But the biomechanics of the horse is no different than the humans. They have the muscles, but unless they're developed and they're used, they're going to be weak. If they have great lungs, but if they're not used or worked, they're not going to have the lung capacity, and it can't be an athlete. No different than a human. So those basic, breaking it down into those principles, helped me understand how to work him. And remember, most of his first 3.5 years, of his life, Ivory Palace, he was in the stall 24/7. So he didn't have the conditioning.
Before you got him, you mean?
Correct. Yeah, he was pretty much stalled because he didn't respond to the traditional training methods that are found in some circles in the walking horse world, which is just get him out of the stall, ride him up and down, and put him back. And there is no trail riding involved. There is no mental stimulus involved in the horse. There is no cross training, stuff for the doing side passes, go over poles, jumping, or anything. So I knew when I bought him he was very underdeveloped. So considering my prior background from playing sports and being in the Army, I just broke it down and said, well, just let me condition him and let me get his mind stimulated. And he was a very playful horse. So the playing and so forth and the bond and me running around in the pasture with him, he gave that to me. I never set out to, I want to play with him. One day I jumped the fence to the pasture and he started chasing me around. And I started chasing him around and so forth and playing tag. And some people say, you can't do that. He's a stallion. He's going to hurt you. And I'm like, well, I'm playing with him. He's not doing anything to me. We're just playing. And I sensed that respect that he had, towards me and vice versa. So the relationship just kind of built over that time of just grooming him, letting him be a horse, just understanding that, he had some issues that he had to overcome from the harsh training methods. For example, I found out the hard way. Time I was riding him on just a trail, and I took off my cap to kind of wipe the sweat off my forehead from Florida, and he didn't like that movement. And what I realized is when I went to get my cap and raise my hand, he thought that the next movement would come down with the whip over his head, because that's the way he was trained. If he made a mistake, it was fear-based. So all those just common sense things, and just putting ourselves in the place of a horse. If I was being trained or learned or something, how would I want to be treated? I don't think I would respond very well if I made a mistake because I didn't understand, to be beaten over the head by something or being forced to something.
Now, wait a minute. Are you married?
Yes.
Well, then you should be used to that.
A little sometimes. We had that. Well, yeah. I give the pressure very well. Yeah.
So I think the point I'm trying to make in just talking to you, and by the way, it's always fascinating when we get to spend time together like this, is Ivory Pal went from nothing, a horse pretty much standing in a barn. He was cute and all of that, but really knew nothing. You went from nothing, and you two became champions because, we talk about Ivory Pal being a champion, but you were there with him. So you were a champion as well. I guess the point I'm trying to make is that not all champions are the champions that buy the $100,000 horses. Ivory Pal was not a $100,000 horse. So you two did it through hard work, through determination, and through a bond, through really a partnership of getting to know each other. That's where the championship came from. It didn't come from money. It didn't come from anything else other than heart and hard work. That's absolutely correct. And I think that's what I'm going to call this particular tip is heart and hard work, because so many times, I went to the World Equestrian Games. There are partnerships there that are through heart and hard work. There are partnerships there that were purchased. And,
right.
They may have become partnerships after that high dollar amount of a purchase, but it doesn't always have to be that way. There's hope for every kid out there who has a horse.
Absolutely, and that's a great point, because I'm not a professional trainer by all means, Glenn. I mean, I don't train other people's horses. They have been asked to and so forth, and I just give people tips. But I have a full-time career, and Ivory Pal is my hobby. So it shows that, one, you don't have to be, quote-unquote, a professional trainer to accomplish things, and second of all, you don't have to make this a full-time thing. The main thing is, like you alluded to, as long as the intentions are right and the horse is not being as a means to an end, and you always put the horse ahead of anything. They're our responsibility, and we've been entrusted with their health, both mentally and physically. You will achieve something, and not every horse is judged a champion by whether they win blue ribbons or not. And any horse could be considered a champion as long as there's a partnership with the individual rider or owner. So the worth or value of a horse is not determined by how much ribbons or how many ribbons they won or how much money they won. It's determined by the bond in the relationship. I think that's the most important thing to remember. And always just trust your instincts. There's so many times where I was told, you can't do this, you can't do that, you can't ride him with the bitless rider, you have to have shoes on him. Tennessee Walker can't do a Spanish walk, or Tennessee Walker can't canter, you can't drive without blinders, you can't drive without a bit. So trust your instincts and be your own professional trainer, and just do what you think is right for the horse, and use your judgment. And usually there's a gut feeling when somebody was telling me something to do, and I would listen, because we always got to be open to what people have to say, because you may learn something. But no other individual can know what our horse is about other than us, and that comes from spending time just being out there and enjoying the horse without any not being rushed or anything. And what helped me with that is, working, having a full-time career, you got to put up with people.
Yes, exactly.
So the biggest relief for me, believe it or not, was just going out and being in the pasture with them and having the dogs around me. So unintentionally, that helped develop the bond. So there was a lot of factors that came together. But like you mentioned earlier, as long as people are willing to work hard and never compromise our integrity, by that is not doing anything that will hurt the horse, I think we'll be, we should be good to go. And don't rely on quote unquote professional trainers, because there is no certification to be a professional trainer. Just rely on what we know to be the best thing for our individual horse. And every horse is different. I think I mentioned in one of the previous shows that we have 4 horses, and each horse can ride differently and play with it differently. So it's being able to adapt to the horse, and being able to push the right buttons to get it to do what we want. I mean, the other horses are great and we love them, no different than Ivory Pal, but they don't have the same mental or physical capacity that he does to do it. So if I were to take one of these other horses and try to ask him to do what Ivory Pal was, that wouldn't be fair for them. I mean, they have strength in other areas, but overall, that would be unrealistic to try to make it into something that they're not. So it's trying to also match the horse personality and abilities to what the rider and horse owner is trying to accomplish.
Well, I'll tell you what, we're going to have to cut it off here. Everybody can find your website at ivoryknollranch.com. Plus, Ivory Pal has almost 29,000 people who really like him on Facebook. Just search for Ivory Pal on Facebook, and you'll find his page there, too. He's quite a popular guy. And, you can do all of that just by hopping on to Facebook, search for Ivory Pal, and become a friend. And you have lots of great videos and pictures and all of that stuff. So you'll find all of that there. And thank you so much, Rafael, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Thank you very much, Glenn. Always a pleasure talking with you, and always an honor to be on your show. Thank you very much.
Well, you can certainly hear the love and compassion that Rafael has for his horses, and especially Ivory Pal, and we thank him for joining us here on Horse Tip Daily, and he'll be back with more tips as time goes along. Well, that's it for today. Be sure to remember to tune us in every morning, 9 a.m. live at Horses in the Morning, me and Jamie Jennings, as we make an attempt to accompany your coffee every morning and just give you some light, lively equine entertainment. And that's 9 a.m. at horsesinthemorning.com. We'll be back again tomorrow with another new expert and a different horse tip. Until then, stay safe, everyone.
The Horse Radio Network and the Horse Radio Network hosts are not responsible for statements of guests or their opinions. Use your own judgment when listening to the tips provided by the experts on Horse Tip Daily.